Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. This is your brother Zehan Rashid. I'm representing today Happy Strong Family, which is a small but significant non-profit organization. We are working towards the well-being of the families and children that live with us, around us, but even far from us. Our weekly podcasts have literally contributed to topics ranging all the way from parenting to marriages to happier homes. Alhamdulillah, through these podcasts, hundreds of questions of the community have been answered. Our social media content in the form of Instagram, YouTube videos, and other platforms have allowed hundreds of thousands, and dare I say, millions of people to see our content worldwide. We cannot thank Allah enough for allowing us to have that kind of, if you like, resource available for our brothers and sisters, both in the Islamic community and amongst our community in humanity, so they can become confident husbands, wonderful fathers, beautiful wives, and great mothers. For this, we need your help. So thank you so much for considering donating to our organization. And who knows, that sadaqah, this contribution that you made today, may be the reason on the day of judgment that becomes a huge shade underneath the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's throne.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, everyone. This is Mushtaq coming to you live from the Happy Strong Family weekly live stream show every Sunday, 11 a.m. And this podcast, this series really is about focusing on a happy, healthy, strong Muslim family. And we come at it from all different angles. And we do try to cover all kinds of topics within that spectrum of a happy, strong family. So today, in this week's podcast, I'm humbled and honored to bring a special guest who has been a friend and supporter of Masjid Darul Iman and the Islamic Center of Markham's various efforts when it comes to charity and stewardship in terms of giving back to the various communities, whether here or abroad. Mahmood Qasim, CEO of IDRF. Mahmood, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome, man. Now, this topic about giving back, I want to come at it from an impact angle. You know, even when we're fundraising for the masjid, or we're fundraising for any NGO, you know, whether it's IDRF, Islamic Relief, ICNA Relief, you know, the list now is a strong one.
Yeah.
Right? Growing up in Mississauga, my family, you know, various masajids, we knew Red Crescent, right? Obviously Red Cross.
Yeah.
But now the field is filled with active participants. That's a good thing.
Very good. Very good.
But Mahmood, tell us about the impact of these NGOs on the ground. And you've been on the ground, right? That's why we were excited to have you on the show. You know, it's always one thing to kind of give from your wallet. You know, it's always that feel good.
Yeah.
You hear the speeches, you see the videos whenever on YouTube, especially during Ramadan. And yes, you don't see me with my cup of, you know, Tim Hortons coffee. So we're still in Ramadan time frame. If ever you're going to watch this in the future and wonder, well, what happened to that cup of coffee, man?
Yeah.
What is the actual impact?
No, it's a very good start, I think, to the conversation. You know, myself being in this field now for almost a little over 14 years.
Wow.
I've had the experience and privilege, alhamdulillah, to see it from, you know, different countries and from different lenses. I started off with being in the kind of the social services development side of things. And then when I moved back here, because I was in Malaysia for a long time. When I moved back here, I got into this international development and relief sort of sector with a very reputable, known organization, Islamic Relief, which gave me a strong understanding and foundation of how this space works.
Right.
When you look at it from an impact perspective, yes, especially in the month that we're in, there's a lot of questions. People have, who do I give to? Is it really going to get there? Am I putting my dollars to use in the right places? And these are all valid questions because with the growth of our community, with more and more Muslims across Canada that are, in spaces where they're making good earning and they're looking to support. It's not the same as it used to be, where our parents or their parents who had potential connections back home,
Right.
that sort of is changing now, because for a lot of us, this is home.
100%.
And that conversation starts with, I want to understand the organizations and the charities and the foundations that are here. So a couple of things that I look at when I'm giving, because giving sadaqah and giving zakat and things are very important, but you have to look and take your time. I think the age and time we live in of information, but also where people are just kind of moved by marketing and a lot of flash and things like that. I think it's got to be beyond that. It's got to be, you have to look at and ask questions and see if my dollars and my support, not only dollars, but the time that I'm investing, is it going to organizations that are making meaningful impact? And I think that's the first starting point. Do your research. Don't just give because you're moved by an emotional appeal, and then you just give your donation. Really go into their websites, understand how they're spending your money, and then make that commitment.
Right. Now, with regards, again, to kind of really expanding upon the meaning or definition of impact.
Yeah.
When you're on the ground, right? Your
Yeah.
teams are there. It's very different. I guess if you look at any other charitable organization, you look at many NGOs, we go online, or you guys are at a mosque, at a masjid. I don't want us to say, kind of use the Salvation Army approach of being at, during Christmas time at the shopping mall. But just to kind of extrapolate from that analogy, say I give, okay? Then what happens from there?
Yeah.
What happens from there? Walk us through the steps.
Yeah,
because again, it's a little bit of a mysterious black box, Mahmood. I'll be really frank with you, right? Because let's deconstruct the journey of, let's just say, a dollar bill.
Yeah.
Okay. Or $10, $20, $100. Okay. Or whatever the amount may be, from here to being on the ground, as they say, boots on the ground. I think many people don't understand that concept, right?
Yeah.
To kind of really take a page from many of our parents' playbook. Never mind that many of us now are like first generation Canadian. My kids are second generation Canadian, right? My parents came in the 60s. They were probably one of the first Desi families in all of Toronto. There were probably less than 100 of them. And they are those families that, seems like almost myth or legend, or it's like head scratchers. Like, really? They read their Jummah Salah on a Sunday? Yes, my parents were part of that initial group.
Right.
Forget the first influx of immigrants that came in the 70s and 80s. They were like one of the first few families.
Wow.
Like they went through that struggle of a different level, right? So forget about sending money back home, or whatever the old world, old country might be. Home is Canada.
Exactly.
So what happens? Tell us the journey of that dollar to being on the ground.
Yeah, we're really dissecting things today. So
let's deconstruct. Let's dissect it, because the more people know, it, like you said, it just gives that transparency,
100%.
gives comfort.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I think here there is an influx of organizations that are in the country that may have been founded and started somewhere else, and now they have offices here. So I'll focus more on the ones that are Canadian founded and how their system works. So it's easier
good enough. Yeah.
Because it's easier for, I guess, the viewers also to understand how it works. So there's at least 2 or 3 Canadian organizations, 40 years plus history. And the one I'm working with now, IDRF, started in 84. So, 39 years of standing history here. How it works is, and for these organizations, most of them have a model known as localization. There's 2 models, or 3, more than 2 models, but the 2 that are most popular are, you're either a localized model or you're working through like a federation system, where there's multiple offices, and they're all kind of raising funds, and they all go to a central pool, and from there things are dispersed. But ours is a little bit different, and a few others that work through local organizations. So how the dollar would work is, you donate to the organization, be it at a fundraiser, at an event, or whatever. That dollar obviously is processed through the finance teams, allocated towards whatever you gave it to. We'll use the example Pakistan floods. That's what you marked on the envelope, Pakistan floods. It'll come through, it'll get processed. Now, if it's zakat, it'll go towards zakat eligible programming. And if it's not, it's sadaqah, it may go towards more open-ended programming within the flood category within Pakistan.
Okay.
From there, a project proposal, which is usually received by these organizations on, we're going to do food aid, we're going to do shelter reconstruction, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And those funds get allocated to that program. Funds are then transferred to that country. From there, it's implemented through the field team, and that dollar ends up getting used in one of those fields based on the project proposal. There are costs along the way. There's always this notion, and there's a ongoing conversation that we hear on from charities and in the space of, can this be done with 0%? And I'm of the philosophy that, that's very, very difficult. You can't take a vehicle from point A to B and expect it to get there for free. There's always going to be costs.
Right.
There's fuel and maintenance and depreciation and other things that are taking place. So same thing with charitable work. There's people involved. There's procurement systems involved. There's logistics involved. And there's obviously staffing involved to do the work.
Right.
So there are costs, and those costs range from anywhere, depending on the organizations that you support, anywhere between 8 to 10% upwards to 30-40%, depending on what sort of project it is you're initiating. So it is an intricate process. I know it's a little cumbersome, and but I think it's important to understand that things don't just, you give $1, it's not within like next day that dollar is going to be put to use.
Right.
It takes some time. And that's when these urgent appeals happen, and why people are saying give. The organizations want to have an understanding, how much do we have so we can initiate good, quick programming. And when I say quick, sometimes a week, sometimes a month, sometimes 3 months.
Right.
It all depends on the need.
Right. I mean, not to make light of it or poke fun of it at all, but it's not. And I repeat, not, and this is where I look into the camera, where it's some kind of YouTube short or TikTok video where you have someone give a paperclip and, trade, barter. They end up with like $1 million in a Lamborghini.
No.
That's not the way the system works.
No,
right?
not at all.
As you said, things have an actual hard cost to it because there are people involved. They're there on the ground.
Exactly.
You have to pay for transportation. You have to pay for the shipment,
right,
for the food, for the people, for the supplies, right, for the actual raw materials.
That's right.
Say you're doing a reconstruction project for shelters. As an example, Masjid Dar al-Aman, we're working with the Turkish embassy. We're undergoing now a program where we're actually taking not cargo containers, but the actual truck trailers.
That's right.
And a company here in Canada has converted them into 2-room shelters.
That's right.
Complete with a microwave, a little mini freezer, a sleeping space quarter. This is like a little mini home. Yeah. Right. So for someone whose home has been devastated because of the earthquakes, this is a good, solid, quick fix.
100%. Yeah.
So now maybe let's go back to impact.
Yes.
Okay. And from a previous podcast, I'm just going to bring it up and park it. I am going to appeal to the community and anyone who's watching this to appeal to the business community as well. I don't know if this applies to you or not. And if I'm all completely off base here, please just correct me and shut me up. But I want the businesses to get involved.
Yeah.
Muslim businesses to get involved. Corporations to get involved and support these efforts.
100%.
Because you know what? And I've said it before in the past. You look at a company like Apple.
Yeah.
Okay. I actually had to Google this for a dinner conversation. How much money do they make in a day? And every other page, not even every page, literally every result from that Google search was like, they make $1 billion a day.
Wow.
Okay. So if they're making $1 billion a day, and this hit the news cycle a while back, that they have enough money in their corporate coffers, something upwards of something trillion to buy complete island nations, nation states, islands and countries practically.
Yeah.
Well, then why don't they give zakat?
Yeah.
I'm serious. Why don't they give zakat? They could literally wipe out poverty on the face of this planet if they wanted to. Hello, utopian society like Star Trek, but is anybody thinking that in the corporate world? No, because, we're built on just year after year over year, YOY. It's an actual term, year over year profit.
That's right.
But for how long? For how much? And to what end? Okay, but that's another conversation altogether. I'll park that. Yeah. I'll park that for sure. So now let's get back to the notion of impact.
Yeah.
You have been there. You've been to actual some of these places, right?
Yes.
What have you seen when you look, let's just say in the eyes of someone who's been affected
Hmm.
with your IDRF vest, and you're actually handing out a hamper of medical supplies,
Yeah.
or a hamper of food, or you're carrying a piece of lumber to help rebuild somebody's home? You've been there in these situations.
Yes.
Tell us that emotional, where you're gonna just rip your heart out and be like, here, take my heartstrings and all, and I'm vulnerable right now because I'm here in this moment.
Yeah.
Tell us some of those stories,
It's
because I don't think it gets any more real than that, man. You've been
Yeah.
there, right? So it's not some kind of just disconnected association where it's like, hey, give us your money and we'll make sure it happens. It's not that way at all.
Exactly. No, I think for me and for those who know me, they always say that we can see you're really passionate about this work. You really,
Mhm, mhm.
you're not just doing it because this is the only sort of thing you could do.
I've known you for a while now, and I'll vouch for that 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And it started for me back in 2005, where it first sort of sparked.
Mm,
And that was when my father decided, after the earthquake in Pakistan,
mm.
that we were going to go and try and help. Because at that time he was the chairman of one of the other charities here,
Oh.
ICNA Relief.
Okay.
And I'm an ICNA, child. I've grown up there, and a lot of the people will be watching this like, yeah, that's true. So when we went to Pakistan and I was in Kashmir helping out, what I experienced, even though the children, the mothers, those who had lost everything, their sort of peace and contentment, even though they're going through such a difficult stage in their life,
Mm,
really brought that reality back for me that, having reliance on Allah and having reliance that there are people around the world, and that hadith that we hear all the time, that if one part of your body's aching, it's like, the ummah coming to its aid.
yes.
And that's the parable of an ummah, came to light for me, that this is how it works and people are able to appreciate that. And then there are some that are moving, that get you motivated, some experiences like this, and there are others that really bring you down.
Oh, okay. That I
where-
wouldn't have thought of, but
Yeah.
it's all part of it, isn't it?
100%. Like, you go during emergencies where you're kind of going in without knowing what you're going to experience and what you're going to see.
Mm,
And for me, the 2016-17 famine, when I went to Somalia, that was pretty difficult. And even when I came back, I had a very difficult time for at least 2-3 months of the images and the experience of what we went through. And
mm.
you want to do so much, like seeing people in hospitals that are dying because of no access to food and water. And now
Right.
you have come from this large organization hoping that you can do some things for them. But, the logistics and getting things there, sometimes in remote communities, it's just really, really difficult. So it puts you down a lot, that I wish I could do more. And,
Mm.
and that gets me going, that, whatever it takes, I will go back and I will share. And it's not about that people need to go and see it and experience it to feel the impact.
Mhm.
And maybe we get desensitized to so much imagery and pictures and sadness that people are like, oh my God, we're just experiencing this so much. But truly, there is a brother, a sister, a child, a mother on the other side who really can benefit from it.
Yes.
And you have to trust that when an organization or a brother or a sister that is going to say, look, we are going to help X, Y, and Z,
Mhm.
that you should believe, if you have that connection with that individual, that they're honest, truthful, and reliable,
Right.
that you get that done. It's not easy. Like people think you go and you get that motivation and iman boost. Yes, 100%.
Right.
But at the same time, you can have experiences of PTSD and difficulty, because some of the things, are not easy to understand. Some are not easy to overcome mentally.
Right.
And it's not for everyone. It's not something that, I feel like I need to help, so I need to go.
Mm.
During the earthquake, we were, digging things, and you come across things. And same with one of the brothers who was just there during the Turkey-Syria earthquake,
Okay.
shared the same thing, like foul stench, and that there's bodies under this rebel, and there are more and more people that are going to come out. And so it's a space that has its ups where you are helping people and developing them and getting them into homes, but it's also a space where being a father, and I know we're talking about happy, strong families, you see family systems and structures fall apart and break, then it really does, um, take a toll on you that, I
Mhm.
wish I could do more, and inshallah I will do more. And it has its, ups and downs.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I would not have thought of that.
Yeah.
That's eye-opening, man. Thank you for sharing that moment of vulnerability,
No
and
worries.
being so open about it. And you really came through on that. I mentioned to you, just rip your heart out, and you did that for us
Yeah.
and for the audience. That's thank you. Thank you.
Jazakallah.
Tell us then, when any of these organizations are there,
Mhm.
how do they prioritize? Right, you've mentioned there's projects.
Yeah.
Right, so whether it's an earthquake, most recently, as we all know, Turkey, Syria,
Mhm.
or the floods, or a famine, or a war torn zone,
Yeah.
area, how do you prioritize? What goes on in the thinking behind any one of these projects? Because, as you said, there is that devastation.
Yeah.
There is that, oh my God, there's so much to do, but what do I do
Yeah.
as an organization? As CEO, CEOs are meant by design to provide that strategic guidance, right?
Right.
At a high level.
Mhm.
So, man, you're a big guy. You've got broad shoulders. Okay,
Yeah.
alhamdulillah. But those shoulders, you carry a burden on them.
Yes.
So, what guidance, what strategic direction do you give to your organization, that provides that impact? Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, 100%. And I like that question. This statement we have, and sort of in my time now with IDRF, where I've had the honor of leading an organization
Mm.
here, one of the things that I've made clear, being in the space for so long, that the problems keep getting more and more. Disasters are increasing. The poverty levels are increasing. People are going through more. But you look at our space, the development and relief sector is growing. And every year, if you look at just from a financial standpoint, they're growing fast.
Okay.
The message that I share with our teams all the time is that if we are doing our work right, then it should be with a mindset that one day we should not exist.
Yes.
And if we can have that mindset, then whatever we're going to do, whatever projects that we carry out, it's not going to be from a stance of emotion, but it's going to be from a stance of, is this going to have long-term impact?
Okay.
And it's like the Band-Aid approach versus the medicine approach. Like, if you
Right.
have a cut, I can put a Band-Aid on it. It might infect. I might need to put another Band-Aid on it, but it doesn't really solve the problem. It continues to kind of grow. And like, I think full transparency, there are, and we are sometimes looking at ourselves as a business as well, right? You're talking about year-over-year growth, and I love that. I know we parked it, but there are these mindsets where you are looking to grow your organization for the sake of growing it,
Right.
and not for the sake of, is this what I really need to do? Is it actually going to help with the projects that I have? And then you have X amount of dollars, and you need to spend that dollar, and you may end up putting it towards things that are emotionally gratifying. You might get quick food aid out, or whatever the case may be. But if we're really going to do this right, and we're talking from a lens of impact as well,
Yes.
we have to always do things from a level of ihsan. We have to look at it from a level of, do I need to continue doing the same thing over and over? And am I expecting different results? Which is
Right.
what a lot of our projects end up being. Great example is food aid. We keep giving food, but that's not really solving the problem of lack of income for them to earn their own livings, or having sources of revenue generation, or having their own food sources of farming or whatever.
Right. Right.
Because that would ultimately remove us from the equation. And do I really want to remove myself from the equation? Sometimes is the question.
Right.
Inshallah, I think we will all mature up and come to that level of understanding that really we have to move towards this conversation of, let's move away from quick solutions and bandages to long term. And that's been that strategic sort of focus here in Canada, that when we raise funds, yes, people want to give for quick things, like I want to give food, but can we move them towards, hey, I'd like to help this person establish a farm. Yes, it'll cost a little bit more, but in 6 months time you won't need to be donating to their food because their farm will be ready, they'll be generating income. And we have great case studies of successful brothers and sisters who are now, and maybe this is a point to share, like we don't do our fitra program like a lot of organizations in many countries. We only do it in one now.
Okay.
And we do it in Palestine. And there's a reason for that over the last 7-8 years, we've established so many, alhamdulillah, established farmers that in the month of Ramadan, we buy all of their fresh produce.
Amazing.
And
Amazing.
11 months out of the year,
Amazing.
they're selling that food in the markets. They're providing for their families.
Alhamdulillah.
And you can imagine, fitra is not a little bit of collection. We get quite a bit.
Yes.
So we are able to now provide and be part of that income for them. And they're giving to not just their own families, but they've given from the hand that receives to the hand that gives.
Yes.
And that is, inshallah, the goal that we'll get there and everybody will get there. And that's sort of the mindset we need to have from an impact perspective.
It's a great story, man. You're holding back.
A little
You
bit.
are. You are. You are. Ah, I see the sparkle in the eye. Okay. Okay. Good. Good. So then, in terms of that impact, and again,
Yeah.
I'm going to keep this is an ongoing thread, man, because this is that one concept that kind of brings it all together. So whether it's medicine,
Yeah.
or whether it's shelter, or as you say, excuse me, we're fasting, so I can't really sip any water. I can't sip coffee, so I got to clear the frog in my throat. Pardon me. Not that I'm going to get closer to the microphone and go, I won't do that. So with that,
Yeah.
whatever project it may be, how then do you reconcile these projects? Do you see where I'm going
Yeah.
with this now from a financial perspective? Just in terms of that full transparency, what is an indicator of success? What is a measure of success? I'm going to use a business term.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mahmood, a KPI.
We have those.
Okay. Oh, key performance indicators within the charity space, within the NGO space.
Yeah.
Wow, man. Okay. So do tell, what does success then look? Because again, for us to give, and I'm all for transparency. The more anyone is transparent,
Yeah.
the more it establishes a bond and a connection to say, you know what? Yeah, I am your trusted partner.
Yeah.
I am your trusted friend. I'm someone who you can trust because this is the code I live by.
Yeah.
Right? That code is basically me doing this, this, and this because this is what I stand for. This is what I deliver. And this is how I deliver it.
Mhm.
And this is the measure of success for those deliverables. See where I'm going with?
Yes.
So what does a measure of success look like for an NGO or for a relief effort or for IDRF?
Yeah. So it can go two ways. One is you set certain targets with your board, because we obviously have boards and we have systems in place that, as a charitable organization, you have to abide by. And these are good practices, in my opinion, because you have to have financial governance in place and make sure every dollar that you spend is accounted for. So there are indicators and measures in place from those standpoints where every dollar spent, we have to have receipting for it. So an organization who's doing our work on the ground can't just say, brother, we did your work and alhamdulillah, a lot of people benefited. That's great. It's good to have that level of, potential trust, but there needs to be documentation that can provide that. So that's
Okay.
number one.
Okay.
Putting that aside, what is a good indicator of success?
Yes.
It's all dependent on project by project. So if I'm doing a initiative where it's supposed to be focused on livelihood for women and for single-headed households,
Okay.
we need to then measure, if it's a 3-year project, how many single women, mothers or households were we able to take from the starting point to now the project completion. Were able to now be on their own feet and are able to earn their own income and are generating revenue for their families. There isn't a set measure or a metric that says, okay, you have to hit 80%, 90%, whatever. It all depends on the circumstance. What I like to see as a measure of success outside of project by project is how many countries, how many people are we taking from the position of receiving to the position of giving. And I've seen in many countries now that I've gone to some amazing things. Like in Pakistan, and I joined much later, and I've only been with IDRF for 4 years.
Okay.
But this project's been going on for about 11 years or so.
Mhm.
So when I went through this, it was really moving. It was really, really moving. There was a project that initiated because the infant mortality rate in certain parts of Pakistan was very high.
Okay. Okay.
And people thought, okay, it's because of malnutrition, it's because of many factors, and they're all correct factors.
Sure.
But a main reason was there wasn't enough birthing support in those regions. The hospitals are not close enough. There isn't any doulas or midwives or physicians there.
Oh my. Okay.
So with this initiative, IDRF worked with Kohi Goat Hospital, which is in Karachi,
Okay.
and they're very well known for their midwifery program,
Hmm.
to start getting girls from different villages who are living in remote areas in Tarpakar, it's desert areas, bringing girls over. They get trained in the midwifery program.
Mhm.
They now then get employed with the Sindh government, so they have an income after they've graduated, and then they go back to their villages.
Right.
So A, they have an income, they're providing for their families. B, they're able to be in that community providing support to, if there's a mother who's delivering, they're
Right.
able to support them. And over the years, you've started to see now a decline in the infant mortality rate, because now more birthing support is available. So more communities are increasing. Their standard of living is changing because all of them have an earning.
Right.
Someone who might be a person who's graduated, has no source of income, 25 to 30,000 rupees coming into their household makes a huge difference. Huge difference.
Yeah.
So these are the measures of impact and success over time.
Nice.
Yes, you don't see the results of it as a immediate sense of gratification. You don't see, wow, I gave $100, I see a food box being delivered.
Yep.
They're fed. Okay, but what about the next month and the next month and the next month? You don't see that. So me as a donor, I feel that sense of gratification. But what about the recipient? These long-term initiatives for me are what make me feel like we are achieving success
Right.
over the long term, inshallah.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. Great. Great to know.
Yeah.
Great to know. Great to know. Now, producer Kashif, you've been quiet for a little while, so I think it's time to kind of bring you to the microphone.
Absolutely.
You've already put on the screen, and yes, just to explain to the viewers, whenever we look off camera, it's because we have in the studio a monitor, and then producer Kashif kind of brings over a little notepad that says, "Hey, questions from the audience." So it is that time for questions from the audience.
Absolutely, we had some coming through Instagram also. So jazakallah khair to the audience. Before I get to the questions, maybe Mahmood, if you can just tell people a little bit more about IDRF and where to find out more information.
Sure.
Definitely.
And I've pulled up the website here also.
Okay, yeah. I mean, IDRF is pretty easy to get to. It's idrf.ca. The organization was founded by, now I got to clear my throat.
See, when you do that, you got to get closer to the microphone, right?
No, I won't do that. The founder of the organization, Dr. Fawad Shaheen, rahimahullah, who passed away, but he, Canadian physician, received Order of Canada. Many of our board members who are, South African, Pakistani, Arab, Turkish, a strong mix, came together and founded the organization, being that wanted to have a faith-inspired organization that's Muslim-led, that's doing good work, but supporting everybody around the world. The model is very much focused on localization. We don't establish offices around the world and have heavy overhead costs. We work with local partners with the mindset that the people in those communities know what they need and sometimes may not have the means and resources. And that's where that ummah comes together and the body works together. So they lead the conversation and we work with them. So alhamdulillah, that's our model everywhere. You can go on our website and check the details, idrf.ca.
Nice.
All right, jazakallah khair. So
No
before we get to the audience questions, I'll ask one.
Yes, please.
Mashallah, I got a chance to do a little bit of fundraising for different organizations in Ramadan. Brother Mushtaq, mashallah, he does it every Jummah.
Yeah.
What I'm very surprised is at the number of people, hundreds of dollars coming in, but people not asking for a tax receipt. And even when you ask them, they'll say no. So can you just explain for our Canadian audience, what a tax receipt is, how it can help you maximize your donation? And maybe it's something I'm missing, but if you're a Canadian taxpayer, is there any reason to say no to a tax receipt?
Yeah, it's
good question.
I love that question because sometimes there's this notion and understanding that if I'm giving my zakat, I shouldn't take a tax receipt. And there's this sense that it's reducing or I'm taking advantage and benefit from that. I think otherwise, and I know a lot of scholars also think otherwise, that you need to be able to hold these organizations accountable. So put it as a a receipted donation.
Mm.
Ask for a tax receipt, because if you don't, it might end up in general funds. It might end up in pools, because now they don't have to account for it. There's no need to show for it.
Right.
So A, my recommendation is always ask for the tax receipt. B, it helps you because you are giving donations throughout the year to many organizations.
Mm.
So, mashallah, if someone who's earning a good income and they're giving $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, at the end of the year, it's a taxable benefit. You're able to get that back, and you're able to pump more back into the community. So use that as an
Yes.
advantage to give
Yes.
more back.
Yes.
You're looking at 20-30% benefit that you can get back. Why
Yeah.
not put it to your advantage? It's not coming out of your income. It's coming from all the taxes that you already paid to the government, and use that to your advantage. Some countries, amazingly, I'll give an example. UK, they have something called gift aid. Similar to us, like it's about the same percentage, but they allow for a donor to check off that I give my gift, the 28% I'm going to give to the charity.
Oh.
So they have this, and I hope one day Canadian government will consider this as well, because that'll reduce a lot of our overhead costs and things like that.
Yeah.
But use it to your advantage. And I think, Kashif, you raised a great point. People shouldn't just walk away and say, brother, here you go, $100. I don't want a receipt. Even for small donations, take a receipt, and it keeps you in the loop in the conversation, and you're able to receive updates because now we have your data and information.
Right.
You'll never feel like, oh, I gave money, I don't know what they do with my money.
Yes.
You'll know a lot better because you'll get reporting on that money.
Yeah. No. Great question, Kashif. And again, just to kind of give some color commentary to that, transparency lends itself to accountability.
Yes.
Right. It's a straight, direct dotted line connection. Forget dotted line. It's a straight connection.
Yeah.
It's a straight connection. Transparency equals accountability. Accountability equals transparency. Simple as that. Just to paraphrase what you've already said.
Yeah.
All right. So then, Producer Kashif, what are some of those questions?
So we have some more questions here. We have a comment first. I'll read it out. It's saying, Alhamdulillah, very important topic. Thanks so much to help promoting zakat and helping poor and needy. Excited to have Brother Mahmood Qasim. So Jazakallah khair.
Thank you, Brother Kaser.
Yeah, he would be here normally to say salam, but he's in etikaf. May Allah accept. So yes. And then we have a question here. So a lot of these we've already answered. So maybe if you just want to give a quick summary.
Sure.
So this was very. So I think we have a typo there, but it came in through Instagram. How to sign up for international relief missions? I want my family to occasionally travel for this reason. Now I had a very romanticized image of it also till I heard you. So thank you for explaining to us that there's a lot more than the feel good, and there's a lot of things you have to go through. But if someone is prepared for that, like how can they get involved? How can they sign up? Is it possible? So
yeah, I mean, IDRF itself doesn't do it, but another organization that I have worked with and respect heavily, Islamic Relief, does have something called I forget the name, but it's where people can sign up and go and be part of missions.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm drawing a name blank right now. It's Ramadan, I apologize. But you can go and check them out. They have these services. Do I personally support it and push it? I'm not a big believer in doing international missions to be connected to the work. I think it is great that if you're on if you're gone for Umrah, or you're gone for Hajj, or you're gone for visiting back home, or you're showing people Pakistan, India, wherever you're from, and you do take a side trip and they're able to see some of the things to kind of get their iman in check and giving, I think it's better, because some of these trips end up costing $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and that money can go towards helping them directly.
Fair point.
That's my view on it.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point.
Jazakallah khair. So the next question that came in, and I feel this pain also. I think we all do. Like we said, there's so many different causes, and so donating gets me very anxious. So many charities and causes, overwhelming, too sad, too heartbreaking. I want to choose what's most impactful, but I don't know how to prioritize. It's too hard.
Oh, okay.
Very, very good question. Donating still gets me very anxious, even though I'm in the sector. But one of the things that helps me is I like to be prepared. So I like to know, yes, giving, what your right hand gives, the left hand should, that whole sort of concept is still there. But I think doing our due diligence kind of rests that anxiety a little bit.
Right.
And there are organizations that are doing this work for us. There are organizations like Charity Intelligence, people can check it out, charityintelligence.ca. And you can write any charity's name in there, and they'll have done their homework for you. What's their financial transparency?
Okay.
What's their impact? How many cents are going to the cause? How many cents are going to admin?
All right.
What's going to marketing? What's going to fundraising? All that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And they do a full sort of narrative as well, because they will not only read your financials, but they interview you and ask you questions. So they do their homework. And then outside of that, you also have to do your own. I think nothing stops you from picking up the phone and calling these organizations, say, okay, I'd like to give to so-and-so cause. How will it work? Will I get a report on it? And it shouldn't matter if your dollar value is small or large. You should be able to receive information on if this organization is transparent and accountable, to provide you that information. So yes, there are a lot of charities, but some of the onus is on you as a giver to do your homework, to ask the right questions, and to check these resources. I've listed one, Charity Intelligence, and there's the CRA website there too, where it's a little bit boring. Charity Intelligence makes it a little bit more simpler. So you can see all that information and make your choice based on that.
Okay. All right. That's great to know. Charityintelligence.ca. Thank you, Qasim. Mahmood. So now another
2 more questions. Yeah.
Kashif, yes.
So 2 more. So this one's actually interesting because we got obviously the CEO of a charity. We also got a board member of a masjid. So I don't know how you guys are going to battle this out. But pros and cons of
we'll arm wrestle.
You know, alhamdulillah, brother Mushtaq gives me a very safe space to say what I want to say. So I'll make a point on this also.
Okay.
Pros and cons of donating to a third party, masjid, family, company, I think they meant to say, etc., that will simply pass on donation to an NGO. Now, personally, I don't must just make a lot of fundraising appeals now for international relief. Logically, I don't understand that. I would never do it myself, because what's the point of donating to someone that's simply going to pass it on to a different NGO? I would rather find out what NGO they're donating to and give it to them directly. If they can't answer that question, and some masjids I've asked, they haven't been able to, because obviously they inspired me to donate. But if they can't answer that, then I'm walking away. Donating to the cause in another means. But so what is the point? And a lot of people, there's family members that are asking, that are just passing on the money and stuff. Why wouldn't you just
had a traumatizing experience? No, but I can tackle this from 2 angles. One is a pro of why going through the masjid, and one is maybe something like Kashif and others might have the same viewpoint.
Man, you're making this arm wrestling thing a little bit too easy. Okay, fine.
All right, I respect
tee it
you
up,
guys,
tee it up.
I think sometimes giving to the masjid can be beneficial, because from my experience, these masjid boards, even though they're volunteers and stuff, take their job pretty seriously. Not in all cases, in most cases. And then they hold us accountable. They'll say, look, we gave you, because they're lumping it together and giving usually larger pools of money. So 50,000, 100,000, whatever that amount ends up being. End of the day, they now need to be able to show to their donor base, the mosque, congregants, how did this money get spent? So a lot of times they will keep following up. I need to know, where did it get spent? And sometimes they will go and be on the field to see with their own eyes. And that's a trusted person in that mosque that people will be like, look, I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen where the dollars go. And that's that added value that I can see. The side that a donor might be like, why should I give it to the mosque, where I want to give it to the organization that it might go to? And there's validity to that.
Of course.
Because the mosque could be splitting it over 4, 5, 10 organizations, and then you're obviously reducing the impact anyways.
Yeah.
But if you know which organization is it going to, do I like their impact? Do I like the fact that they are spending this much on their own operations and so much is actually going to go to the cause? And that might rest that donor to say, okay, I'd rather give it directly to so-and-so, so it's better to know who is it going to go to. So there could be a win-win in the mosque situation, and as well as for organizations. When it comes to companies, I kind of recommend people donating through companies.
Okay.
And I've seen a big benefit over the last 2-3 years, platforms such as Canada Helps and Benevity and other platforms, where companies are giving matching if you donate through their platforms. So, why not take advantage of those things? So anybody watching, or you're going to watch it at any point, go on our website or any of the charities you support, go on their website, and you'll see they usually have a place where you can see, does your company do a matching? Put your company name in and see if there's a matching fund. If there is, take advantage of it. You might be donating 500, they might give you a full 500 match, and now you're giving 1,000 to the cause. So
Well said.
utilize these things
Absolutely. Absolutely.
when they're there. And if they're not, then donate directly to the organization you choose.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Now,
Yeah,
Kashif,
Jazakallah khair, that helps a lot. You know what? That's actually, I didn't think about it from that perspective. So you opened my eyes a little bit. So
Appreciate
I
that.
appreciate that.
so
Sorry about
I'll comment from a masjid board perspective, and
Yeah.
also being someone from the shura. The difference is the board, like a C-level position, is someone that kind of provides guidance, strategic guidance to the mosque.
Mhm.
A shura or management is someone who looks after the day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
Right. So I sit in both roles, wear both hats. We give zakat.
Mhm.
Right. We actually have our donation boxes, and yes, they all have separate compartments inside,
Yeah.
and we take that very seriously. So when you are putting in your 10, 20, $100 bill into the zakat portion of our donation box, then we are accountable to that. Our bank accounts are set up separate such that we actually have a zakat fund, which is
Right.
not touched for any masjid purpose, whether it's for a renovation project or whether it's for an iftar dinner. These are all separate. We do all separate collections, and we hold it separately.
Mm.
Even if in iftar dinner, we have a separate hold for that money. Now, when it comes to the zakat, to continue with this theme, when we give that zakat to any kind of charity,
Yeah.
then we hold them accountable.
Exactly.
Right. So it's just an easy way, because people, again, are going to the mosque, they're going to the masjid.
Right.
Hey, I want to give my zakat. Okay. So then it's not like what maybe our parents did, or maybe what our parents continue to do, call up, Ammi Jan or Nani me back home and say, hey, I'm sending you through Remitly or whatever, PayPal. And, you just, personally hand the money to people. Right. This is different because we don't go that route.
Yeah.
We don't go that route.
Yeah.
We work with local, trusted partners, because we are then accountable. So just to kind of tie off on that.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah,
Khalid?
absolutely. Jazakallah khair. Appreciate that a lot. Yep. So now I have a question personally, which I told Mahmood I wasn't going to ask originally.
Oh boy.
Go
But
ahead,
now,
man.
alhamdulillah, he's here. I can take the opportunity. I apologize in advance because it's going to sound like a bit of a rant, and
Okay.
it's also, maybe I'm wrong, and alhamdulillah, if I'm wrong, there's someone with the experience that can correct me
You're
here.
speaking of the man at the top, the
Yeah,
person at the top.
exactly.
Come on.
And it's not a knock
Nervous.
against any specific charity, any specific person. I think is a system.
Yeah.
I honestly believe the state of Islamic charities in Canada has become very concerning. Very concerning. This is people's sadaqah and zakat.
Yeah.
What's happening here is, these lavish events, international tours, celebrities, spokespersons, influencer marketing, all these. So alhamdulillah, that would all be good if you're generating new money. But this is now, in my eyes, and I could be wrong, this has become a competition for people's zakat, for people's sadaqah, and they're using people's zakat and sadaqah to fuel that competition.
Yeah.
I work in telecom, one of the highest competitive fields in Canada. But I honestly believe that Islamic charities are getting there. They look like innocent fundraising tactics, but these are tactics to put the other out of business.
Yeah.
These are tactics to drive zakat from one charity to another charity. It's very concerning because you're using people's sadaqah and zakat to do it, which is, and you can be a charity that's, alhamdulillah, you're only 10% admin cost, right?
Yeah.
How long are you going to be relevant if the other is spending 50%, 60%? They're going to put you out of business.
Good question.
So my question is, what can we do? Like, what can the community do? Because or is it even really that concerning? But I think this is very concerning, and it's headed to a very dangerous place.
Kashif, yes, it is a question it's not an easy one, but I'm glad you're bringing it up because it is a conversation that is happening a lot. And I'm exposed to it a lot. Like I have friends that are not only just in the development space, but in many, many, many charities. Actually, my brother is the head of National Zakat Foundation, which focuses on local zakat, and my friends are pretty much sprinkled in many different organizations. But this issue of it becoming competition, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think it's starting to get carried away, and it's starting to become unhealthy. Because as much as my mindset is to put ourselves out of business, I don't want it to be this way. I want it to be from a manner of putting ourselves out of business because you're doing good work and you're not needed anymore. But if it's from a mindset of, you know, I need to do things to attract more donors to myself because I need to be the biggest, I think that mindset is creeping in too much to our organizations, and we're losing that focus on the actual impact and the work, and more so on how can I raise more money to be seen as the largest organization and the biggest organization, and be branded a certain way and so on. And I think we're losing the plot. Like, this is not the model that if we really aspire and we're seeing as Muslim charities. I ask myself this question, and I'm a very competitive person by nature, but over time, I've had to really kind of do some introspection and say, if the Prophet ﷺ had been alive today, is this how, you know, we would have been going about it, where we're fighting with each other, we're trying to outdo each other. Yes, outdoing each other in goodness is a good thing, but outdoing each other to potentially sabotage or make life difficult or make it hard for people to even trust certain organizations because of misinformation. Like, there is, you know, again, inshallah, a lot of people will watch this. The best thing donors can do for us to reduce our costs and do less, like in the 3.5, 4 years I've been CEO with IDRF, I have not brought a single celebrity or a big speaker and try to do too much, because I've done it. I've experienced it. I know the cost that it takes to do that. And we're in the month of Ramadan, which is like the most expensive and difficult period for all these charities, because every year the corporations that are benefiting from us are seeing the trend of, hey, they're spending quite a bit of money, let them cannibalize on each other. And, you know, things like, and I'll be very transparent, like the keyword searches, which is a very important thing in Ramadan for a lot of organizations.
Through Google Ads,
Google keywords, like you go on Google and write donate zakat. You want to be that first one at the top popping up because people will click it. It's becoming extremely, extremely expensive.
Yes.
Like, could you imagine right now, today, if I told you for one click, it'll cost $58? Would you believe me?
I believe it. I believe it.
Like, it's getting expensive. So I think really we have to ask these questions. How much are organizations spending to do these kind of things? And I'm not going to lie. Yes, we spend on it too, but my board is very particular on keeping our costs in control. And I hope other organizations have similar things, and we should stop comparing each other to each other.
Right.
Like, you know, some are smaller organizations, some are larger organizations, and people have different ways, but we should not try to sabotage or make things difficult for each other. And don't want to get into too many specifics, but I think, yes. And I think that changes really, Kashif, from a perspective, if you know, mosques also enjoy this, where a big speaker is coming, they like bring them to our location as well, and will allow you a fundraiser. You know, organizations like coming to events where there's a celebrity or a big famous thing. Like, if we were in the business of event planning and we were in the business of, you know, influencer marketing, great, but we're charities. And I think we've started to become, since we have a lot of money supposedly, but it's not our money, we're just custodians that have to use it for other things. We need to stop sort of using those funds for these sort of initiatives to try and make more money. And yes, it may make us more money, but ultimately, is that really our objective? And this is a bigger conversation.
Obviously,
Kashif,
maybe
so
another podcast another day.
This is definitely
I
another
it's just-
podcast, because I'm kind of biting my tongue and holding myself back too.
Yeah.
I mean, look, being here at the mosque, we have been part of this, right?
Yeah.
I'll just come out and say we've been part of this, where we've had those international speakers, and I'm not going to mention names, but you can just look at the most recent, you know, speakers and scholars we've had at Masjid Dar al-Iman. They have been ticketed events,
right.
okay? So part of the cost, yes, does go to bring that speaker here, transportation, honorarium, all of that.
Yeah.
I'm being 100% transparent, right, to the point where I'm vulnerable. That being said, none of this is going to be redacted. I'm not going to take anything back, because it is what it is. So then, do we pass on the buck to the consumer, i.e. the congregant, and say, yes, this is a ticketed event. You are paying for this speaker. This is what you're going to get into. It's going to be like a 4-hour event. You're going to walk away learning some incredible stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, come one, come all. that, or there are other specific examples that I could also give where it's like, oh, like you say, a celebrity, right? But then again, it's held at a hotel. There's a nice dinner. There's already $100 ticket fee to it,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth, right? So it is part of this ecosystem where it's a balance,
Yeah.
right? It's a balance.
It's a, you know, my only thing is it's unlike you need to spend money to make money, but I don't know how much
100%.
new money these charities are making rather than just stealing up share of people's 2.5% that they have to donate anyways. But it's just getting very dangerous because you're fueling a marketing war using people's sadaqah and people's zakat. Like
Yeah.
that's essentially what you're doing. Ticketed events and stuff for a speaker, I think that's a bit different.
Mhm.
Sorry, we're approaching the upper limit, and I did want to switch to one other topic because
Sure.
we have Brother Mahmood on and accomplished leader, mashallah.
Go right on
So
ahead.
we're going to take this advantage to get some leadership tips. But what I realize is, alhamdulillah, we have two very accomplished leaders sitting on here right now that are leaders in Muslim organizations, Muslim institutes, right? So, you know, you could read about Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Harvard Business Review, all the management theory. But I'm going to take this advantage from both of you because when you're leading an Islamic organization, for anyone watching that might be or will be in the future, our new generation, you all you know, automatically have this, whether you like it or not, you're representing the deen, right?
Right.
Brother Mushtaq, as a board member, you know, you might be impacting the way that you treat your employees, volunteers, their connection to their salah, right? Brother Mahmood, you're impacting their connection to your sadaqah. It's a very important responsibility.
Yeah.
So, and you know, I couldn't do it. Alhamdulillah, I have so much respect for you guys. It becomes very dangerous when you're in a spot where you have to shut down people trying to do good for the sake of Allah, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's for good reasons. Hopefully, people aren't doing it out of their own egos and stuff. But alhamdulillah, I have a lot of respect for you guys. And just so when it comes to leading Islamic institutes as a leader, what's that extra layer? Like, how do you keep yourself grounded? What's for anyone that's looking to represent the deen in an institution and be a leader at that level? Yeah, the Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, you can learn a lot from them, but they're not going to teach that layer of it, right? So what do you think works best for anyone looking to lead an Islamic institution?
We made a quick switch here, but it's a great question. You know, for me, one of the things that kept me grounded, we'll tackle the grounding thing first, is surrounding myself with friends that are really understanding and supportive. That has been a big help, because a lot of times when you're at the top leading, it's a very lonely place to be because you don't have peers with you. But then having friends who understand that struggle and that are like-minded, that are able to keep you grounded, is a huge support. And obviously having a good, strong family system. You know, I spend a lot of time with my kids. I'm involved in their basketball. I coach with 2 different teams. And for me, that is something that helps me stay grounded as well. I used to play a lot of basketball, and now with, you know, different changes in my life and injuries and whatever else, I can't play, but at least I get to live it through being part of it and helping and coaching and guiding others. And that leadership sort of carries into that. How I lead, and this is something I learned from my early days of getting involved from the social services side. And I learned this from Sheikh Tawfiq from Australia while I was living in Malaysia, is this mindset of servant leadership.
100%. Couldn't say it better.
And
100%.
I find that if I ever get to a position where I am the laziest person in the organization, then I'm not doing it right. I have to always be pushing myself to be doing the most, because I don't want this excuse that, oh, because he's at leadership, he can take it easy and he just delegates. And yes, those are great skills and important, but I think it's important to lead from the front and not from the back. That's my personal belief. I have to be the one that's working the hardest, and I have to be at the service of others. And if that I can continue doing, then people will be inspired to say, okay, I support this, I'll stand behind it, and inshallah, I will continue to be good, inshallah.
Sorry, guys, this is live. I just had to take a call from my kids' tutoring center saying
Nice.
that Baba, our tutoring is up. So this is what happens when you're live. Oh, and by the way, my nephew Nu, who has been on previous episodes, is here. So he's just offering, should I go pick them up? If you could, please, Nu, yes. And if you have to have the tutoring center call me to verify that you're their nephew, cousin. Yeah, cousin, please go ahead. So to answer that, to me, it's really simple, Mahmood and Kashif. The more hard you hustle, the more humble you have to be.
Mm.
The more humble you have to be. And to kind of take a page from your playbook, absolutely. Many, many, many years ago. And I always kind of joke myself that I have enough gray hair in my beard now to kind of prove it. I don't hold it back. I'm 48 years old. Many, many, many years ago, I met a sheikh from Chicago, and it was like already 1 o'clock in the morning. It was Ramadan. We had all went to a certain board member's house after Taraweeh. And, we were kind of in that time where it's like, if you go to sleep, then if you take a break, go home, get some rest, then you're going to miss Qiyam, the Qiyam al-Layl prayers. You're going to most likely miss your suhoor, then what you do about Fajr Salah.
Yeah.
So we're kind of in that zone where we're just awake, right? And we started talking, and he mentioned that he wasn't the least bit tired, and we all looked at him like, man, you're just go, go, go. Because again, he had come from Chicago that same day. He had drove 9, 10, whatever, how many hours from Chicago to Toronto, no less.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, this is like a marathon guy. What is he like? He's like one of those iron triathlon, athletes. How is this even possible? And he said something that stuck with me ever since and struck a chord in me. And he said, when I pass away, that's my time when I rest. My time here on this earth is my time. So I got to give my all during my time here. However much time I have, that's the unknown. But whatever time I have, I'm all in. And that always struck with me. That always stuck with me hard.
That's amazing.
Hard.
Advice.
So my simple philosophy in terms of any kind of leadership is that you hustle hard and you be humble. And Kashif, to your point, you and Mahmood, you take out the ego. In terms of being a leader, whether it's servant leadership or just being humble, you take out the ego quotient. If it's doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you are truly doing this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you look at yourself in the mirror every day. You look at yourself square in the eye. Because whenever I use the analogy of pointing, I always say, look, I'm going to point all 5 fingers back at myself. And then I kind of do this where I go, I'm pointing all 10 fingers back at myself. And when I do that, I hold myself accountable, right? I'm transparent with myself. At least I always try to be.
Yeah.
I try to be the best version of myself. I'm human after all. But to kind of go with the flow, I basically always say, look, I'm here in this one life to live.
Yeah.
Got to make the best of it, right? Be the best version of yourself. So with all of that combined, just be humble. Just be humble. Do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ego will always be there. Take the ego out, man. You hear scholars all the time say, look, we're just a drop of beep, beep, beep. This is a family show, right?
Yeah.
So, like, that's all you are, man. That's the dust, ash to ash, So that's who we are. That's what we are. Don't just be humble. Just be humble.
Alhamdulillah.
Jazakallah khair. Appreciate that a lot. That was from both of you. That was really nice to listen to. So thank you, Mushtaq bhai. I'll pass it back to you to wrap up. I think we've crossed an hour. So.
Yeah, we've crossed an hour. So not that I'm gonna apologize to the audience. But that being said, and I think this is definitely another podcast show in and of itself. But I did park that whole concept of a corporation. You mentioned businesses and Benevity, and what is it? Canada Helps, corporate matching.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna call to task many of the large corporations out there in corporate Canada, saying, look, guys, forget your corporate dividends. You guys have charitable foundations, right?
Yeah.
I know for a fact many companies do. They have charitable foundations. Give back to your community. Give back to Islamic causes, Islamic relief causes, Islamic NGOs. You have Muslims, you have Canadian Muslims working in your corporations. Help them by helping these organizations. It's simple. It's a simple connection. Corporate Canada, I'm calling you guys out. Okay? I'm all for making money. Hey, I'm all for the economy. I'm all for capitalism. But you guys have to hold yourselves accountable all the same. You guys are making money year over year, even in inflationary times.
Yeah.
Just Google it. I'm not going to mention the obvious, news with the obvious company that's being mentioned here. I mean, not that I'm afraid or anything, but whatever. It's a big, grocery store, right? The CEO getting what a record salary. Like, come on, corporate Canada, hold yourself in check, okay? Not that you guys can give zakat as a corporation. I know that much, but do more corporate matching. Look deep within yourselves and say, look, are we truly being inclusive? Are we truly representing diversity? And are we truly representing our Canadian Muslim employees? Just ask yourselves that much and then go from there. All right, I'll use this. I'll get off my soapbox now, Mahmood, and I'll say, come back to the show, come back often, because we deal with the hard issues. We don't hold back. We don't hold no punches. And we do talk up what many times people are either afraid to talk about, might find challenging, or just don't know how to bring about the subject at all. So we do that talking for you. And this concept, this show is all about a happy, strong Muslim family. So we do thank you for your cooperation and time and energy. We hope to send out some good vibes every time we have every different guest. So thank you very much, Mahmood.
No, this was really wonderful conversation. Thanks for having me. And we'll crack a few more in the future.
There you go. Definitely. Look forward to it. All right, producer Kashif, as always, thank you so very much for being the voice and the heart and soul of the show, for asking the questions that have to be asked. So thank you so very much for that. All right, we'll end the show here. We've gone over our time, but I hope it has had even a little bit of impact in your lives for today and tomorrow. All right, this is Mushtaq signing off for now.